Good evening, this is Deborah, and we are in episode 52 of A Village Life in France. All right, going to get straight into it. Now let's talk about how to find a doctor. That is the key to getting decent health care in this country. So if you think you plan on settling here, you do need a doctor. You're going to need to find out how to get a doctor, how to get specialists, and how to get dentists. All of these things are issues, especially since so many parts of France now are what's considered medical deserts. There's not enough doctors, nurses, specialists, and dentists to cover the population. It's really quite an unfortunate situation. We just deal with it. Now, I alluded to the fact that there are people who are going, oh, you just move here and all you do is you go on this one website and there you go, you've got doctors. Yes, that's true. There is one website that they refer to. That is not the only place to find out how to get a doctor, so we're going to talk about that. Most people go straight to DoctoLib. Every one of these sites that I am quoting, that I am mentioning, is going to have a link in the show notes so that you can go straight there. You can put it in your bookmarks in your computer. You can put it in your bookmarks in your mobile phone. This is really valuable to have. It absolutely is. Along with what I referred to earlier, always have a translation program in your mobile phone so that if you need something and it's an emergency, whether you're sick or you've had a car accident or whatever, you can either type it in or speak it in, and it will come out of the speaker, and whoever is there to help you will know what you're talking about. All right. The first site is DoctoLib. When you go to DoctoLib, you type in where your region is. All right, I'm going to say, for instance, here, Brittany. And then you type in what part of Brittany. There's several sections of Brittany. And then you type in what sort of doctor you're looking for. Are you looking for a GP? All right, médecin généraliste. They'll tell you all the different places that they are available, and there's quite a few GPs. Here's the problem. Not every doctor, and this applies all across France, not just in Brittany, all the doctors do not join DoctoLib and have themselves listed. Do you know why? Because they have to pay a monthly fee to be on there. And for some of them, that's not the way they've ever operated, and they don't really plan to add themselves to that list. They don't think that's necessary. Or they just don't really think it's economical for them. It doesn't work out for them. So there's that. The other thing is, on DoctoLib, frequently you'll find a doctor that's in your area and you can't get in to see him. You're supposed to be able to make an appointment. You look and see when the available times are. They'll come up in like a little calendar. You click book an appointment and it will say, oh, we're sorry, we're not taking any new patients. And sometimes a little cartoon will come up like that. Ooh. Other times, they'll say something like, oh, you can't make an appointment unless you've been previously seen. And you're like, okay, now what do I do? If you haven't been previously seen and put on the roll, the register of who they take care of, they won't see you. There's waiting lists for everything here. So, language, that's a little bit of an obstacle. Actually, that's a big obstacle. Language, not everyone's on DoctoLib. And availability of openings because they don't always take new patients. So what are you going to do now? All right. Next thing. The next site that's very similar to DoctoLib is something called Keldoc, Keldoc. Now, the ones that I am mentioning, we have actually used, all right, for different things. We used Keldoc the last time during the pandemic, and everybody was looking at all the different sites online, trying to find places where you could go and get your COVID shot because it wasn't your GP that was administering them. It was these huge, big vaccination centers. We got one appointment one time on Keldoc, and that was fine. So I put that in my bookmarks to keep. They have different doctors. They're not all the same doctors that are on the first source, DoctoLib. So you can always look there. All right. Same sort of thing. You put in where you are, what specialist you're looking for, and then you look to see if there's an appointment. There's something else to mention. On most of these sites, I know for sure, I can't remember on Keldoc, for sure, on DoctoLib, there is a little bunch of buttons, and you say, what language would you like to speak in? So in our case, we always put the little button in to say, yes, we want to speak English. Does that mean that you're going to get to the doctor and they're actually going to speak English? No. We've had more than one episode where we've gone to see a doctor and it is said on the DoctoLib listing that that person spoke English, but they don't speak English. And then you're in a pickle. You really are. So that's a toss of the coin. You never know what you're going to get with that. All right, so now we've gone through DoctoLib and Keldoc. And the third one that has quite a few listings is called MAIIA, and it is spelled MAIIA. All right. I don't have any experience with MAIIA, again, except for getting an appointment to get a COVID vaccine. During the pandemic, you were trying to find anything you could anywhere. So that was very reliable. It went through very smoothly. Those are 3 good resources. I've heard people mention, oh, just go to the yellow pages. In France, it's called page jaune, okay? I've never had any success with that. So, another place that does have everything you need as far as a full list of doctors. Once you join CPAM, which is what administers all the doctors here, the site that is the umbrella that manages all the different doctors' registrations. If you go to the Ameli site, and I will give you the specific link, not just the general Ameli site, but the specific link. If you go to the Ameli site, there's a list of all the doctors that they handle. So first thing on there, you look for what sort of, all right, let's say for instance I needed a dermatologist. It's called dermatologue. It's not dermatologist, it's dermatologue, spelled with G-U-E at the end. You will find most specialists are close to the English spelling, but they're slightly different. All right, allergy is just like allergy, but it's, instead of G-Y, it's spelled G-I-E. You can find the specialist, then you put in your region, and then it will give you a list. And in that case, it goes by département. And here's, for instance, here, we're in number 56, so you put in 56, and it will give you a list of all the GPs, or all the dermatologists, or all the dentists, all the surgeons. You can literally find all of these things booked separately. That is a very, very comprehensive list. There's another way you can find a doctor sometimes, and it's something I hadn't thought of until we moved here. You go into the local pharmacy, and the pharmacist will tell you who are the local doctors that might have openings, that might be friendly enough to speak a bit of English to you. That's a really good resource. Making friends with your local pharmacy is a good idea. We've made friends with our local pharmacy, and he's really good about telling us where things are. He gave us the name of our very first dentist here, who then packed up and moved back to whatever Eastern European country he was from. That was sad because he was quite interesting, and Mark had a very good conversation with him about world politics. So, all right, let me check this. All right, sector. On DoctoLib especially, and on the others probably too, you check for what sector the doctor is. What that means is, what do they cover? If CPAM, your France-wide coverage that you get with your little green card, if they cover 70% on average, and then your top-up insurance, your mutuelle, covers the balance. Sometimes there's doctors that are Sector 2. I know in my own case, and in Mark's case, the dentist that we have is a different sector. Also, my ophthalmologist is a Sector 2, and that's considered a specialist, and they're allowed to charge more. And there's fees above Sector 2. There's some that are very much specialist, and they're Sector 3 and above. Check that. Don't go in there thinking you know what they're all going to charge, because it's different. When we first arrived here, I think we paid about 22 euros a visit, maybe 21. Now it's up to 30. All right, that's still just peanuts compared to what you pay in other English-speaking countries. But if you've got that, if you've got your basic French coverage, and then you also have a mutuelle, which is your top-up insurance, you're really not going to be out of pocket very much, and that's a very good thing. Now let's talk about eye doctors, for instance, and getting your prescription glasses. You get a prescription from the eye doctor. Here, it's not like you go into Vision Quest or Vision Express or any of those kind of places that are eyeglasses in a box, so to speak. You go in and you actually have to have, every so many years, a full eye test that does everything. I mean, everything. They check for cataracts. They checked for, what is the vision difficulty where you, macular degeneration. They do all of that stuff. All right. It's very, very thorough. It's covered. He then gives you a prescription, which is called an ordinance. A prescription/ordinance is the same whether you're at the normal doctor or at the eye doctor or whatever. You go to one of these. All right, we go to Vision 2000. You give them the ordinance. They know exactly what lenses to put in for you. And if the lenses aren't right the first time, you can take them back, and they will, at no extra charge, change your lenses for you and tweak it, fine-tune it. They've usually got a little examining room in the back, and you go back there and they go, okay, well, that's what the doctor said. Let's try this. And they'll put a little difference in, and all of a sudden you can see clearly. So you've got all kinds of options, and those you're allowed to get. I think it's once every 2 years you can get a prescription for free, and it's called strictly Sante, strictly health. It's 100%. It pays, it's not glamorous glass frames. I got mine and paid a little extra for them because I like the shape. The shapes that they have for the basic glasses are not always flattering to everyone's face. That's fine. Paying a little more is fine, but you're not paying thousands to go get a prescription set of glasses. And then in my case, I went and got an extra one because I needed one for reading and one for sunglasses. So the medical care is really good here. Very good. The problem is the medical desert. Trying to find your daily doctor can be a real challenge depending on what part of France you're in. If you're in a larger city, like the nearest large city to us is Rennes, that's an hour away. There's more choice there because they've got medical schools at the university. You've got more doctors, more nurses, more specialists, more everything. When I go to my ophthalmologist, I go all the way to Rennes. Not happy. I don't enjoy the drive on the Zoom Zoom highway, but you do what you do. Finding a good, reliable doctor is quite important. If you're in a real pinch, you're not supposed to, if you're really sick, you're not supposed to just get in the car and go to the hospital. They have almost like a triage system here. And what it means is you can't just rock up to the hospital. Yes, if you've gashed your arm or something and you're not inclined to wait for an ambulance because you're in some very rural place, you're still, no matter where you are in France, you're supposed to call 15. Seriously, 15. You call 15. You tell them what the problem is, and they will tell you which hospital the ambulance will take you to or you should drive to. if you show up and it's not a real emergency, let's just say you've broken out in hives and you go, oh, I'm just so upset because I've broken out in hives, and you show up there without having called ahead, they have the right to say, no, you didn't call ahead. Don't do that. Just follow the procedure. Get into the groove of being French. Call 15 ahead of time and then go. That's the safest thing to do. Let's see what else. Doctors listed, follow as a patient, speaking French, check for sector. We're going to go back to language again. If you have ongoing issues or ongoing medicines that you take, keep a note either in your purse, in your pocket somewhere, or put it in your phone. Make a list of all the medications that you take. You might show up at a hospital and be in dire straits and have some sort of organ failure or something. They need to know what medicines you're on. How can they prescribe for you? How can they safely take care of you if they don't know what you're on? So always make a list of everything you've taken or the ones that you're on all the time in a routine way. All right? Also, know that if you come from, let's say, England or the United States or Australia or Canada, you might have a brand name. Let's say, for instance, statins. You take statins for cholesterol. They're not going to be the same name. They're not going to be the same name. Not everything is manufactured under the same brand name. And we have French pharmaceutical companies that manufacture under their own name. And you can know what the name is of what you're taking, and you can look it up online, you can Google it, and you can find it. And then you give a translation to your GP and say, this is what I need. And that helps too, unless you have a grumpy doctor like ours who doesn't want to talk to you about anything you've looked up. So, doctors, you now have DoctoLib, Keldoc, MAIIA, the really comprehensive list from Ameli, recommendations from the pharmacy. In our case, we got our recommendation for our dentist, and we were on a waiting list for a year. This is funny, but it's not funny. When we finally did get in, and he was doing the first cleaning, I said to him, in a humorous way, I was trying to be funny, I said, what do? You have to wait till somebody dies before you've got an opening and you can slot them in. And he said, that's exactly what we do. And I went, what? And he said, yes. He said, we have so much demand and we have so few openings that we do not overwhelm ourselves so that we can't take good care of our customers, our patients. He said, so when someone has passed on, we have an opening, and then you can go on the list. And we were on the list for a very long time, a year. We had to wait a year. I'm glad we had our teeth cleaned before we left Australia. So, all right, let's see if there's anything else I need to be referring to. Language, ask at the pharmacy. Okay, that's about it. You're going to find one thing, especially if you're from the United States and you're used to chatty doctors who will sit and talk to you for a long time. The medical desert phrase comes back into play here, and I mean this seriously. They don't have time to chit-chat about their life, about you, about how you're feeling in general. They need to take care of your healthcare needs and get you out the door. There's that many people who are constantly needing doctors, specialists, dentists. So please don't think that this is people being unfriendly or unwelcoming, or they don't want to treat you because you're not a French speaker. It isn't that. It really isn't. It's that they're that busy. They're that overwhelmed. There's that many shortages. Now, we haven't been back to England in, oh God, it's been 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And they were starting to get like that before our last trip over here when we moved here. And I said, Mark, it's really dire trying to find an appointment. So everywhere. And I've heard from friends in the United States that there are states where it's very hard to get appointments for things too. This is an international issue. Not everyone wants to be a doctor, a dentist, a nurse, a specialist. They really don't. And after the pandemic, a lot of people who would have stayed on resigned. They decided it wasn't for them. They didn't want to be that anymore. When you find a doctor or a dentist, even if you don't like them, even if you think they're grumpy, you hang on to them. Hang on to them tight. And I do mean that, because the last thing you want to be is completely without a doctor or a dentist. That's the other thing. I knew there was one more thing. It's called Maison de Garde. If you have no doctor or GP and you have a problem, let's say you've got a bit of bronchial congestion or something like that, and you just want to know, do you need medication? Just need to write it out. What do you need? You need to talk to somebody and be seen. They have what they call Maison de Garde. It's the we take care of you even if you're not signed up with us kind of situation. There's a Maison de Garde in both of the regional hospitals, and they're exactly 30 minutes in each direction from us, east, west. Their hours are usually for nights and weekends. So after dinner, you could go in and see a doctor at the Maison de Garde, or on certain hours on the weekend. And this is usually for working people who can't take off a day to go see the doctor. If they're working in an office or working in a factory or working in wherever, they don't always have that option. But there is Maison de Garde. So I hope that helps you. I really do. I hope that helps you. Those are good resources. So please don't just listen to people who are starting up a new YouTube channel and saying, oh, it's just so easy. No, it's not. No, it's not easy. You know, you can get a referral, a personal referral from somebody who has had that person as a doctor. That doesn't mean you're going to show up at their office and they're going to go, oh, sure, we'll fit you into our practice. No, they can only take so many people and keep the level at good service. So I do understand that too. I absolutely do. Now, I'm going to thank you again. We got another Zoom of new members after part 2 of the retirement, our version in France. I'm thrilled at that. I'm really just thrilled at that. Thank you. I really appreciate it when you subscribe. Also, when you forward it to somebody else. That's terrific. That's like growing it. Growing our little tribe of people who are interested in being older and living in France and knowing you can have a really good life here. You just have to be prepared. I wasn't prepared the very first time I got ill and had to go to the hospital here. That was quite scary. But that's on me for not having enough language and also not knowing what was going on. I cannot blame the hospital for not having English-speaking staff. We're not in England, we're not in America, we're not in Canada, and we're not in Australia. Let's just say we were lucky. And we'll leave it at that. All right, good. Now, if you have any questions about all of these sites, look at the links first. Most of it is self-explanatory. You will need a browser that opens in English, like Chrome or Firefox now. They have a little funny symbol up in the top bar where you put the address in, and you click on that, and it translates everything to English. That's what you're going to need, because all these sites that I'm referring you to, they're in French. So unless you're fluent in French, you will need to use a translator. Chrome is good, so is Firefox. I think that should do it for right now. I'm not sure what we're going to be discussing this weekend. We'll let that be a surprise. How's that? We'll let it be a surprise. Thank you again. I really do appreciate the subscribing, the commenting, everything. I do appreciate every bit of it. It matters to us. All right. And away I go. Bye for now.